Welcome back to the Mina Kimes Show featuring Lenny, the only NFL podcast where one of the hosts thinks Kyle Pitts is named after the most muscled up dogs in the dog park. That's Lenny, who is not muscled up. I'm Mina Kimes, also not muscled up, joined today by Nate Tice of The Athletic. Nate, you can answer whether you're muscled up.
No, skinny fat is what I'm going for now. That's the look I go for now. So Lenny's kind of svelte. He's got some tone.
He's also, I hope you can't hear me. He's also kind of skinny fat, where like it's actually really hard to buy him clothes because he's so girthy, but then he has like skinny long legs.
I actually can relate. I got skinny legs with a nice belly, so that's a good combo to have.
Lenny, not afraid of pit bulls, by the way. Speaking of pit bulls, but Nate, I am so glad to have you for here. Last week we had Deontay Lee, also of The Athletic, on to try to pick the top 10 defenses of 2022. And I did it the year before with Dominique Foxworth. Now I want to do offenses, which I did not do the year before, thank God. So, because, I did a little bit of a grading of my picks last year. A lot of injuries on defense.
Yes.
Yeah. And offense, I think actually when I look at this list, probably was a little bit more predictable, just looking at like the top 10 teams in EPA per play in 2022. I'll just read them now. Tell me like if any of these team names like surprises you at all. So I'll do EPA per play first. Chiefs, Bucks, Packers, Cowboys, Chargers, Bills, Niners, Rams, Cardinals, Eagles.
Yeah, that's kind of what you think.
Check out. Yeah. Little surprising DVOA. You got the Seahawks in the top 7.
That surprised me as well when I was doing a little research.
Yeah. Obviously fell off. The weighted DVOA falls off. A lot of that was just the first half of the season. Their offense was insane. But otherwise, you have mostly the same teams, although you also have the Patriots in the top 10. Did that surprise you?
A little bit. Well, they had a nice run like in the middle of the season. And then like as soon as they hit freezing temperatures, like Mac Jones is like the opposite of Brett Favre. You know how they used to always do the Brett Favre like stat, like, oh, he's like 42-0 when the degrees under 36 degrees or whatever. And like Mac Jones is like, no, we only throw the ball 3 times when the weather is under 10 degrees. So no, but McDaniels kind of did some fun stuff last year, or like with whatever they had, this weird, strange, heavy offense that they were running. So no. Top 10 was a little weird, but I knew they were a little better than what you initially think.
Before we get into our top 10s for offense, can I ask you something about the Patriots? So Doug Kyed, who does a great job covering the team and other teams for PFF, had a really interesting article today. I encourage people to read it if they have a chance, talking about the Patriots offense, which of course everybody's been mystified by. The lack of naming of an offensive coordinator, the seeming division of responsibilities between Matt Patricia, and Joe Judge. Matt Patricia sort of running the run game side potentially. Joe Judge the pass game. He was hypothesizing. Like, does that, and I would say any of the personnel changes or lack thereof, make you concerned about Mac Jones year 2?
Well, yeah, the coaching thing that's the most concerning to me. They needed speed with their receivers, and they literally just picked the fastest receiver in the draft. So I actually understood the Tyquan Thornton thinking, and I actually liked him. It was just a little, I think everyone's in agreement. It's just a little rich for where they took him, but yeah, I understood it. The Shaq Mason trade was really weird. And I think we'll talk about that when we talk about a different team. But yeah, that one is still strange, but I am still convinced that, so overall, my short answer is yes, as I'm a little more concerned, especially when you have Matt Patricia being the leader of the room, I guess. But I still am convinced that this is Bill Belichick's excuse to coach quarterbacks for a spring. Do you see him snapping balls to the running back?
I do. Drills? Yeah, he's clearly having the time of his life.
And he's loving it. He's like, hey, you line up there. Yeah, you line up there. And I can see him like pointing it out, but it's not like in a gruff way. Like you can see like a little pep in a step. So I'm convinced that that's why he's taking so long. He's like, oh, I get OTAs and I can work with the quarterbacks. Okay, I'm going to hold off till training camp to name an OC.
I really wish, not really wish, but I thought they would go with Bill O'Brien, like a lot of people. And Doug Peace mentioned that, Belichick didn't want to take him from Saban. And I'm like, okay, but when I look at Mac Jones and the stuff that worked last year, aka college-like stuff, and I think about what needs to happen in year 2, that to me would have been a really no-brainer hire. So I'm just a little bit I don't know. I'm a little bit perplexed by that decision, but
I think Saban and Belichick are correct. No, you take him. No, you take him. No, you take him.
Okay, so you're lower on him than me.
A little bit, maybe a little bit.
All right. Well, so I guess spoiler alert: the Patriots are not in I think either of our top 10s for offenses.
They're not.
But we're gonna do the same thing we did with Deontay. Where I'm gonna. And by the way, I want to say something. They're not in my bottom 10 either. Like I know we expressed some concerns. I thought the Parker signing was cheap and smart. I think it'll help them. And despite the loss of Shaq Mason, I still think this line will be good. So, we'll talk about the Patriots.
Yeah, Mac Jones is pretty fun. Like he's got something to him. I
totally,
just like when I was evaluating him as a prospect, there's more to him than you think. And then when you watch him as a pro, it's the same way. It's like he's a fun watch. And so that's why I'm actually more frustrated about the OC stuff, because I want to see him continue to develop, him being Mac Jones.
Agree. So speaking of agreement, Deontay and I both had the same number 1 team for defense.
Okay.
Let's find out if you and I have the same number 1 team for offense. Nate, who do you think will be the best offense in the NFL in 2022?
I'm going with a redemption tour. I'm going with the number 1 ranked offense in Nate Tice's rankings anyways, the Kansas City Chiefs.
Wow. Wow, that is a spicy pick.
It's a little spicy, but the more I look at it, the more I'm comfortable with this, even with the loss of Tyreek Hill. I think Mahomes is going to be ticked off. I think it's going to be. Are we diving into it right now? Or
let's dive into it. So first, I'll reveal that I actually had them at 3, which I thought was spicy. Okay. Just before you dive into it, let me kind of recap who's in and out for those who haven't followed the Chiefs offseason. So Patrick Mahomes still the quarterback. A lot of the wide receivers group's gone. Obviously Tyreek Hill, but also Byron Pringle. Got a pretty decent share of targets to Marcus Robinson. So now you're looking at a very different profile group. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Juju Smith-Schuster, Mecole Hardman, Sky Moore, Justin Ross. They got more muscled up, by the way, like Lenny. And you still got Travis Kelce, of course. The line stays largely the same. I think they're trying to get a deal done with Orlando Brown. I think right tackle will be a question mark, whether it's Wiley or Niang. And then running back, Darrell Williams is gone, but you still got CEH, and they added Ronald Jones. So, many people looked at this group and said, well, how can you lose Tyreek Hill and not suffer greatly, like take a huge step back? So I guess start by answering that question.
Yeah, and I think it's a philosophical change. We'll talk about the Chiefs and then the Bills a little bit later, unless Bills are your number 1. With the Bills, Bills and Chiefs, I think they ran into the limitations of how spread you can be and how RPO heavy you can be. And I think we saw that the biggest spotlight on it was the second half against the Bengals in the AFC Championship game. But I think once these rules got convoluted on RPOs. RPOs originally are you're putting a guy in a bind, and we either hand it off. It's an unblocked guy, a defender in a bind. There's an unblocked guy. Do we hand it off or we throw it? And I think what happened was they would get these juicy run looks. I know you love that term. Mm-hmm. These really, really nice run looks, and they would still throw the ball. And I'll talk about this with Josh Allen and the Bills as well. But the Chiefs ran into that, and I think they realized, we've maxed this out. This is all we can do. We are built on yak now. What happened to our explosive plays coming through the deep ball? Not that they really weaned away from it, but I think they realized the limitations. So I think this is going to become more of a traditionally based attack. And what I mean by that is running the ball, play actions off of it. And I think it's going to become more of an at-you run game. I think their offensive line is a true strength. I think it's one of the better ones in the league, one of the top tier ones really in the league. And then the receivers that they have built up, it's a fun mixing of styles. They, like you said, they got fit. They bulked up in the receiver room. So MVS is what I've started to come to know some of these kind of power slot types, as I know you love that term as well, but these blocking guys that can also attack vertically. So I think MVS is the epitome of that. So now they can run the ball more. They have these receivers that can block more as opposed to running routes. Yep. Yeah. Juju's another one. And then Hardman is now the deep guy, the intermediate deep guy. And then you got Sky Moore to create some yards after the catch on the shorter intermediate stuff as well. And then you got Travis Kelce. And so I think they just have leaned into, We're going to have Travis Kelce be our X receiver, and then we'll have MVS and Juju be our Y tight end, basically. They kind of switched around how they attack. And I think this is just an answer to what defenses did to them. The defenses ran too high more. They're like, hey, we'll let you dink and dunk. How you beat that is you either run at them or hit them over the top. And so I think that's why they're shifting their offense to be more of that. You're trying to put the safeties in a bind. So I'm really excited to see this team. CEH is best with at-you runs, like duo and power, like you ran at LSU. So I think they're just like, hey, this is what our guys are good at. Let's lean into it. Let's get more of a personnel that matches that.
Everybody expected them to lean into it when they remade their offensive line because they went so power centric. So right. So the thinking was like, oh man, this is how they added Joe Tooney and you got Orlando Brown in the mix, and like they're going to really run more power, and CH is going to get the ball, and that just didn't happen. And then it did continue to not happen at the end of the season, well, throughout the season, but at a point when it was like so glaringly obvious they should run that even the nerds were admitting it. I mean, the one that's embroidered, it's in my mind, embossed in my mind. I don't know, whatever is one of Mahomes' horrible seared into my brain. And I'm sure Chiefs fans is one of the Mahomes horrible interceptions in the playoff game, which he passed it on the RP. You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
He had the RPO and he passed it. And it's like,
I have a whole rant on about it.
Dude, what are we doing here? Like, you don't have to give on every RPO. It's not a PO, right? Yep. And CH, unsurprisingly, faced the lowest number of 8-man boxes in the entire NFL last season. And they just didn't run. So, one thinks that they'll go more in that direction, in addition to the past concept, the past game you were describing. But like I got to see it first. I mean, and this is, I'll say this. I think one of the reasons why I feel like people are underestimating the Chiefs isn't just for the philosophical reason you described, but like this offensive line ranks second in the NFL in pass block win rate and third in run block win rate. And I think sometimes when we talk about offenses, we're just looking at skill players. And it's like, I see teams being valued above them with much worse offensive lines. And like offensive line continuity matters a lot. So I am high on the Chiefs. I do feel like it feels a little galaxy brain to say like, oh, they might actually be fine or even better. I don't know about better after Tyreek Hill left, but I don't think it's because of the talent. I think it's because of their refusal to make adjustments in response to how defenses were playing them with Tyreek Hill. So
yes,
that's how you kind of get out the galaxy brain. And it's like, no, we're just going to blame the coaches for this.
I mean, you kind of can though. Yeah. I mean, but that's the talking on both sides of your mouth. I'm betting on Andy Reid, and then I'm also betting on them maybe hopefully learning a lesson from last year. The first time they played the Bengals in week 17, they pounded the rock against them, and they were ripping off 15-yard run, 10-yard run, 20-yard run. And that's when I was like, ooh, the Chiefs they figured it out. They figured out how they cut the fat out, all that other, all the cute Mickey Mouse stuff. And then they got away from it. So that is where I'm hoping that they watch that game and it just sticks in their brain. It's seared into their brain, both of those Bengals matchups. And they go, okay, this is what started to work for us. This is how defenses adjust to us. And this is what we're going to do. I also want to see how they use Noah Gray, which is their backup tight end, because last year they started to use him more and more as almost, because this is what he did at Duke as well, as like a de facto fullback. So they would be like in two tight ends with Noah Gray and Travis Kelce. Kelce would be split out. Noah Gray would be a little off tight end, and they would lead block with him, what I call Y insert. And so they started sprinkling that in as the season went along, which is also, I think, a run more teams are going to run this season. So I think I think they started like to pepper some of this stuff in, and now they have a whole offseason to hone it in. And they still have this guy named Patrick Mahomes, so who's pretty damn good.
Yeah. All right. Well, you had them at 1. I had them at 3. I feel like I'm going to make ESPN aggregate your list the way my defense list is on NFL on ESPN. Okay. So who do you have at number 2?
Number 2, I have the Bucs.
Okay.
Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
So I also have them at number 2. I should reveal that I had the Bills at number 1. I'm guessing you have the Bills at number 3. So.
I have the Bills at number 3.
Okay, so we have the same top 3 in different orders, but we both have the Bucs at 2. So let's talk about the Bucs.
I'm sorry. I have the Bills at number 4. I'm sorry. I'm a liar.
Man, Who do you have?
Yeah.
Okay, let's put a pin in that then. Wow, Bills at 4. Interesting.
Yes, we'll put a pin.
Okay, so at the Bucs, we both have at 2. So the Bucs, lot of continuity here. Well, there's some changes. So the Tom Brady, the receiver group, gets back Chris Godwin, adds Russell Gage, which is a signing I love that we can talk about. I wrote gone, Gronk. We'll see about that. OJ Howard, but at the moment, Cameron Brate is TE1. And then the offensive line, everybody was freaking out about after the Super Bowl, but they managed to bring back Ryan Jensen. They traded for Shaq Mason, as we discussed. So gone are Ali Marpet and Alex Kappa. They have Aaron Stinney, who's got a fair amount of experience with them at guard as well. Running back, you lose Ronald Jones. You draft Rashad White, and you also keep Fournette and Gio Bernard. So let's start here. I'm just going to straight up ask you, do you think this offense is better? Assuming Brady plays like he did last year, do you think this offense could be better than the one last year?
I think it could. I really do think they could, especially if some of these rookies, I mean, this is every team in the history of time in every sport ever, if they get some contributions from their rookies. I mean, their O-line's another true strength. And again, that's going to be a theme of the offenses that I do like is quarterbacks and offensive line. Funny how that works. No, love the receiver room. I'll just knock that out. Right. Mike Evans is Mike Evans, stud, all-time guy, like just a really, really good player. Chris Godwin coming back, one of my favorite players. I agree with you. Russell Gage signing, and he's going to be their number 3. He's a perfect skill set for him and Godwin. They can rotate in and out, Z and slot. It's great. Even the role guys like Tyler Johnson and Scotty Miller are pretty solid role guys when you're getting down deep in the depth chart. And they have another guy, Jalen Darden, who they drafted last year. So really just that's the receiver room. Offensive line, you already hit up. Shaq Mason trade was a steal. I like Luke Gadecki, who they drafted in the second round.
I should have mentioned that. Yeah. So he has a chance at breaking.
He has a chance.
Yeah.
Yeah, really interesting. Like kind of like he was like a late kind of like watch because everybody was watching Raymond, the other Central Michigan offensive lineman, and all of a sudden they're like, "Who's this other guy?" And he ended up going higher, which is pretty funny. I've never been a huge Leonard Fournette fan, but he was better last year. He's kind of whatever. I think he still misses holes. He still has drops, but that's why I'm so high on Rashad White. Not just because in Dynasty League, if you notice how excited I was to draft him, but his size, he's a smooth runner. He tested really well. He's an outstanding receiver. Outstanding. Really good hands. He used to be a receiver in high school and I think early in JUCO. But out of the backfield and running routes. And you know who loves to pepper his running backs is Tom Brady.
And you know who gets really angry when they drop those passes? Tom Brady.
Tom Brady, exactly.
Ronald Jones, shout out to you.
That's why he's in Kansas City. But this is the same offense, though, and I know it's Byron Leftwich instead of Bruce Arians, but same offense that utilized David Johnson so creatively in Arizona. So I could see some similarities with Rashad White in their games. It's actually kind of funny. But then even tight end wise, I love Cameron Brate. I think he's a really, really solid tight end. Their guy they drafted in the 4th round, Cade Otton, shout out to University of Washington, good blocking tight end.
He's decent.
Yeah, this offense, it's a 4th rounder, so it's like whatever.
Yeah.
But this offense, though, and Gronk kind of when they got Gronk, they had to change how they use their tight end because they use this tight end traditionally just as a blocker. He's a big extra offensive tackle essentially. That's what Jermaine Gresham in Arizona was. He was just another right tackle for them. So that's why the Cade Otton pick made sense to me that he's a wide blocker. And if they get anything out of him, I think that'd be a nice bonus. But if Tom Brady is even 90% of what he was last year, because what he was doing was insane. I mean, this offense, I think, is just going to tear people apart.
Absolutely insane, by the way, the Brady. So we did the quarterback draft. We both did quarterback drafts like a few weeks ago. And I was just like pulling all the deep numbers for the various quarterbacks, like deep numbers under pressure, deep balls when you get the ball at this time, deep ball. Tom Brady led the league in like freaking all of them at his age. It doesn't make sense. On I mean, he threw, forget the efficiency, he threw the most 20-yard passes. Like I don't know, man. The dude is insane. And, you know, again, as long as he's playing at this a high level behind a good offensive line, which is more important for Brady, I'd argue, than anything, they'll be fine. Like our last memory of them is like barely losing to the Rams. Tristan Wirfs was like a shell of himself in that game. which was massive, by the way.
Oh,
massive.
they were walking wounded in that game.
Yes.
They just wanted to get through the game. They were like, you could tell, even their demeanor during that game was just like, what?
And then he almost freaking brought them back.
There was one
65-yard bomb over Jalen Ramsey. I mean, just freaking insane. So yeah, I got a lot of faith in this Bucs team, a lot of continuity, like the additions. I think it doesn't really matter who runs the ball. You're going to get those quote unquote juicy looks because of this offense and because you're running behind a very, very good blocking line. So, all right. Yep. So you don't have the Bills at 3.
I have them at 4. Yes.
Let it rip. What do you got at 3, Nate?
I have the defending Super Bowl champion Los Angeles Rams.
Okay.
And yeah.
You have them higher than me.
Yeah.
I actually have them at 6.
Ooh. Yeah.
Let's talk about
this. This was one. I thought I would be lower on them. And it's, again, when you start it's so funny. It's like we do this for a living. And I feel like I've talked about all these teams 100 times. And I feel like I don't know what I've repeated and what's a new thought. and then I'll look at like stuff like the Rams and you break it back down. And you're like, man, they were pretty freaking good last year.
Crazy.
I'll first get with the negative on them is the no Joe Newboom for Andrew Whitworth swap is going to be scary until proven otherwise. I know they're high on him, but that's gonna be interesting. But I mean, man, what they were doing last year, just getting all those empty formations with the 2 chip help guys and just absolutely shredding people. I tweeted the stat today. Since 2018, this is also a Patrick Mahomes stat as well as a Matthew Stafford stat, is the top 5 EPA for dropbacks versus 5 or more pass rushers since 2018 is Mahomes in 2018, Stafford in 2021. Those are the top 2. And then it's Mahomes in 19, Mahomes in 2020, and then Mahomes in 2021 rounds out the top 5. You can't blitz them. They would attack down the field. I mentioned with the Chiefs that to get out of what defenses are trying to do, you have to punish them down the field. So they were getting defenses into these soft looks because they were scared to blitz them. And you could see Sean McVay truly lean into what Matthew Stafford's good at, which is the traditional old school 7-step drop back. And how they got to it was these empty looks, like I said before, with the chip help. I'm curious to see how Allen Robinson fits in, but I think it's going to be nice in that X receiver role for them, like Brandon Cooks and OBJ were before with them.
Yeah.
He'll make a ton of sense in the red zone and winning one-on-ones, but he'll sacrifice some yak that OBJ brought. That's the trade-off, I think. But yeah, the last thing is I love their tight ends. The running back room's interesting, I'll say, but I do like the tight ends they have. Higbee, Kendall Blanton, and Bryson Hopkins both had nice playoff games. Van Jefferson really has to embrace that Robert Woods role of being more of a blocker and being more what they call their Z, because I don't think Tutu Atwell can even do that. So they need something out of their other receiver other than Allen Robinson and Cooper Kupp to match this ranking. And I really do think they can, because I'm excited to see his next step if Sean McVay has been in the building at all the last few months.
Yeah. Okay. So I obviously am I have them at 6. It's not they're high, but I'll throw out like the concerns. So turnover on the offensive line. Now, Joe Newboom has been very good, and he's of course replacing the retiring Andrew Whitworth, but that still is a pretty significant, change. Yeah. And then at right guard, I guess it's going to be a competition between they drafted someone, Logan Bruss, and then Bobby Evans, who's been up and down for them, to say the least, losing Austin Corbett. The tight ends had I, as someone who works at the Rams preseason, was delighted to see Kendall Blanton, Kendall Blanton in particular, contributing. But Higbee's been pretty inconsistent, man. There are times when he'll go on these stretches where you're like, oh snap, they got to run he's got to be on the field, he's a contributor, and then he'll just disappear or struggle or drop the ball. I don't know. I just I want to believe in this group, but I'm still a little sus. And then the final thing I'll throw at you is, do we think last year was a total aberration for Allen Robinson? Because he looked rough. Now, rough. Now, a lot of that you could blame Justin Fields for. But watching him, he looked a lot older. Frustrating. It was... Yeah. I mean, do you think that's just him being like, F this? Like, I don't know. Like, because you talked a little bit about him kind of fulfilling that, X role for them. Like, do you feel confident in that? I guess is what I would ask.
I do. Yes and no. I'm betting that it'll be halfway between 2019, 2020 Robinson and 2021 Robinson. The fact he's wearing number 1 is also helping out.
Good point. Very good point. Very good point.
With this projection. Yes. But no, he was not good last year and very frustrating. The stuff that he's supposed to be good at. He's a very detailed route runner, winning in contested catches, just a crafty, old man at the YMCA kind of game. And when you have to play that way, you have to be consistent because, as far as like what you're doing, because you're not winning with explosiveness and you're not winning with speed. Like OBJ and Allen Robinson couldn't be any more opposite as receivers. OBJ is a wild horse at receiver. He runs routes short, he runs routes all over the place, but then he'll break everybody off.
Ball in his hands.
Ball in his hands and he's gone. Allen Robinson is everything to the catch point. Everything is crafty. He's a technician. And the fact that he wasn't playing that way last year is concerning. So I do agree with that. I'm betting on the LA boost, the Stafford boost, the working with McVay boost. But yeah, no, that's a very, 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 very fair concern to have. And that's why I think Van Jefferson's got to step his ass up and be more consistent.
I also think it's very likely OBJ comes back to this team. Jordan Rodriguez covers the Rams for The Athletic. I think she interviewed Kevin Demoff and he talked about them working on that. It just seems at this point like pretty likely. In that case, I would assuming, it was ACL, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So he'll be fine. Assuming he comes back fine, I think that would probably bump them up for me. And look, I don't think Stafford was a 1-year wonder, like with them. I kind of think we're just going to see the same guy, which is, like you said, unblitzable, just plays inside and outside of structure. I think they figured out how to blend their offense with what he does well traditionally. Yep. I also expect him to throw a lot of interceptions, right? And he has his 4 plays a game, where he's so terrifying. Yeah. And shout out to Kuski Tart. So I still think he's going to be really, really good. It's really I'm sure you guys have talked about this. At this point, there's the unblitzable quarterbacks and the blitzable quarterbacks, right? That's kind of the NFL, and he is firmly in the unblitzable category, as is the quarterback whose offense you have relegated to 4, though I have him at 1. 4. Okay. 4. The Buffalo Bills. The disrespect.
Why are they your number 1? How about you go first? Okay. And I'll be the rebuttal.
All right. So
crack your knuckles.
Yeah. Okay. So I do. I am a knuckle cracker. Yeah. Yes. Gross. That sounds like gross. Dumb hasn't. I try to do it on camera. Hold on. Oh, I already used up my 1 knuckle. Okay. So last time we saw Super Soldier Josh Allen, he looked like the Terminator.
Super Soldier Josh Allen.
That's my nickname for him. Super Soldier Josh Allen. He looked like
NFL YouTube channel starts trying to come up with nicknames,
the weirdest nicknames. Yeah,
they call somebody the Winter Soldier. I think
it was just made no sense. Yeah, Bazooka Josh. Okay, so
it was that Google AI coming up with the YouTube.
Oh my God, yes, that meme. Yeah. Okay, so Josh Allen is Josh Allen. So let's start there.
Yes.
I think him and Patrick Mahomes are currently in the top tier of quarterbacks in the NFL. I like the changes to this wide receiver group. So Cole Beasley's out, Emmanuel Sanders out. You get Gabriel Davis, who, a little bit of recency bias here, but he bumped up. I think Jameson Crowder will be an upgrade for them over Cole Beasley. You still got they kept Isaiah McKenzie and then drafted Khalil Shakir. Shakir, I'm saying his name right? Khalil Shakir. I know you're a fan, correct?
Big fan.
Okay, Big fan. Put a pin in that. You take OJ Howard, from the Bucks, obviously didn't pan out there, but I think he's going to be very interesting in this offense for reasons we can discuss that are not too dissimilar from what we talked about with Kansas City. Dawson Knox, I think, has looked better and better. And then you add James Cook, which I just love that draft pick, to the running back group. Offensive line, you add Roger Saffold, again, upgrade. I think, and then you got Ryan Bates, stolen from Chicago. And then on the right side, I think Spencer Brown can do a good job manning the opposite tackle from Deion Dawkins. What is not to love?
New offensive coordinator, which
okay,
could be good. Could be good.
No, it's a good.
Could be bad.
Damn.
Yeah. And I
owned a little.
Not a knock. He could be even better. Like, you don't know. Like, you don't know who these ideas come from. I think some of the stuff too. I think the offensive line is more solid than like good to very good. I think they were one injury away from scary territory. So that's my main hesitation when talking about them. If that's why they are fourth. And that's, I can make the same argument with the Rams as well, but I've seen more of the Rams have answers to it just by what they do on offense, like running the ball and how they do pass protection rules. So they also have a new offensive line coach in Buffalo. That's another thing. I do like Deion Dawkins. But I agree. I love that flyer they took on OJ Howard. I thought that was brilliant. I mean, that's the type of guy you want to take a chance on. Just take the biggest athlete at the tight end position and just hope you can get more out of him in a better situation. I mentioned it before. The Chiefs went through not the Chiefs. When I was talking about the Chiefs, the Bills, they were going so super spread and they're kind of they're really inconsistent, it felt like, for a lot of the year. And then about halfway through that Bucs game in week 14, it seemed like the light bulb went off for them. Where same thing where the RPO stuff, where they were throwing the ball by default when they should just be handing it off. Because again, they got the juicy run looks. And this is where they started to bring in Reggie Gilliam. I think me and you have talked about this a little bit. Mm-hmm. Yeah. They started to use Reggie Gilliam, which is, I'm not saying Reggie Gilliam is the key to the 2022 Bills offense, but this kind of showed just a philosophical change. And this is also like Chiefs and Bucks or Bills. It's kind of like, they're like in the same grouping about what their limitations and what their adjustments have been. And using Reggie Gilliam, because what they were doing is using him as more or less as a second tight end. What they were doing was, okay, if the defense wants to be, when you're in 12 personnel or 21 personnel, why the advantage is that the defense has to dictate by personnel what they're in. Are they going to be in sub, nickel, or dime, or are they going to be in base? So if you want to be in base with an extra linebacker, okay, let's chuck the ball. Let's throw it. They have less speed on the field. The defense can't be as exotic. It's very simple, I know, but this is what it comes down to. If they want to be in sub or dime looks, okay, let's pound the rock. Let's run it. And you could see the Bills offense really open up as they got to more of those types of looks under center, wing formations. That's where OJ Howard, I think, is going to come into play. So I think that's the upside. That's what I'm hoping that they lean into more. I'm hoping Ken Dorsey learns from that. And yeah, I do love the Khalil Shakir pick. I think he's going to be a great slot player that can play a little bit on the outside. But I think my hesitation why I have him at 4 is the offensive line and the new offensive coordinator. I guess I can't project. I guess everything I've hated. I don't project anything, apparently.
I think it's fair. It's fair. Especially the turnover of the coaching staff is really important. And then I think you're not wrong about the offensive line. I mean, of the groups we've mentioned, definitely. Like I said, I had some questions about the Rams, questions about the Bills' depth. Totally fair. I will say, I felt that. So you and I, the world's preeminent Reggie Gilliam truthers, counting those snaps at the end of the season. I think the fact that they signed OJ Howard and drafted James Cook signals that they want to have that versatility continue into next season. I should just take a beat to talk about James Cook. Basically used as a scat back at Georgia, instantly the best pass catching running back on this roster. Singletary and Zach Moss just kind of didn't cut it for them in that regard. I do think Devin Singletary is pretty good, but I think he is going to get a lot of play very quickly, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's pretty effective for them from the jump.
Absolutely. Yeah, like Singletary, I think now that I got access to this True Media, I've just been deep in Excel stats and all that.
I've got some Singletary stats in front of me.
Do you? Yeah, Singletary is not a great receiver. He's one of the least efficient receivers in the league. But I as a runner, yeah, that's fine. I thought he's the best as a traditional runner, which is weird because Bills, their run game's so shotgun heavy. If Singletary is with I'm trying to think of a heavy under center team, just a heavy under center team, I think that's where he would be more unlocked. But this is and I talk about being so spready and so all these offenses being so spready. And I'm going to defer. My dad's an offensive line coach. I went to Wisconsin. Yes, I do appreciate running the ball. It's more just what dials you can crank up and down when defenses adjust. That's all it is. And it's just giving yourself another way to answer the questions that the defense are giving you. That's all it is. I'm not saying the Bills have to run the ball 30 times with Reggie Gilliam on the field for 40 snaps. It's more, I mean, I do love seeing another number 41 out there, but it's more just that when the defense does want to do that, okay, let's just pound the rock and make them, until they get out of it. And then we can hit them with the stuff that we do like to do. That's all it is.
And a lot of times at the end of last season, that was just Josh Allen himself checking down to his feet, which on one hand, absolute nightmare feel. On the other hand, I think you want to be careful not to lean into that too much, especially early in the season. Remember in the first game of the season? Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
I was going to say in game one, they didn't run the ball once. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh, yeah, against the Steelers?
Yeah. They did run it, but I'm being,
Yeah. Oh, the Steelers just dictate the whole game. Oh, the Bills, you could tell, because those first 2 games of the year you prep for, you have so many game plan stuff. We're going to do this. They're not going to ready for this. And you could tell the Steelers did not care about all the 5 receivers that the Bills ran that game. They're like, okay, cool. You're not going to, we'll just go high coverage because you're not going to run the ball. So it's funny, like when, you get counterpunched earlier than you expect. And I think that game was like a great instance of it.
Okay. Number 5, Who you got? Let's round out the top 5.
This one, 5 and 6 were very close to me. 5, I went with the Chargers. So I went with the LA Chargers, the off-season favorite for a lot of people.
I also have the Chargers.
And you?
And I suspect, I was like calling a lot of audibles at the end. I know I texted you. I was like, I keep taking. I think that the top 7 or 8, I would say top 8 are pretty clear to me. But the order, I think you could make a bunch of different arguments.
My top 6 is locked. Like that, yeah. And after that, it's okay. I have some question marks with some, but my top 6 is pretty. I feel pretty good about.
I'll be curious to see if we have the same team at 6. Okay, let's start. Let's talk about the Chargers. Just to kind of keeping receiver core is basically the same. Did pay Mike Williams a ton of money. Tight end, Jared Cook's out. Gerald Everett's in. Very different type of tight end. It's kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Offensive line. This is my biggest concern, that they did draft Zion Johnson to help man the right side, which is just like a total caved in, like, yeah. You know what I called them? A snickerdoodle crumbling last year, because people were like, just Herbert plays behind a great offensive line. I was like, the
why
left side.
Snickerdoodle?
I don't know. I think it was I hadn't had lunch and I was thinking about it.
Is that your favorite cookie? Or like,
I love.
Are you like a snickerdoodle?
No, chocolate chip, but.
Okay, good.
We still don't know who's playing right tackle, and last I heard, it's a competition between Storm Norton and Trey Pepkins. Okay, I think there could be some improvement there, but man, that was rough for them last year. Yes. And then the running back group, Eckler's still there. They drafted Isaiah Spiller. I thought that was a really fun pick to see if they can get finally settle on a number 2 behind him. So, all right, let's talk Chargers.
Yeah, let's talk Chargers. Let's talk Justin Herbert and how fun he is. They still lack a bit of team speed, like you said. They brought back the receiver group, but how they get about it or go about it is, okay, let's just have Mike Williams dunk on guys on goes routes on the outside. They talked about this last year as the year started. Joe Lombardi is a very traditionally based attack kind of guy, and not negative, not positive. I'm just saying that's just how he goes about it. Actually, it's a lot of similarities to what I ran in college, actually, because Paul Christ and Lombardi have they never worked together, but similar roots as far as their offensive is through Sean Payton. And why I'm saying all that is they had Mike Williams be a true X receiver, and he really got unlocked doing that. And so that's how they attack vertically with him, is more back shoulders and him dunking on guys. But on the flip side of that is I really wanted them to add some speed. I think you and I talked about this offseason. Oh my God, how much fun would Jameson Williams be with them? How much fun would some Will Fuller be with them? Like, just some kind of juice. They have Jalen Guyton to kind of be that guy. But when you have a guy that's essentially a one-trick pony for you as to take the top off the defense guy, defenses adjust. Oh, here's the speed guy. The speed guy's over here. Okay, let's play back. Safeties play back. I really like Joshua Palmer. Again, power slot. So is that 3 so far? That's 3 times I've said power slot on the show. I'm making it happen. I'm making fetch happen. But he's more of like a number 3 type, as he's not a speed guy. He's more of a long-term, possibly a Keenan Allen replacement, but he's more of a nice underneath guy, an intermediate guy, as opposed to a deep guy. The tight end room, kind of, I'm not a big Everett guy. Kind of, I know you aren't after last year with him.
No, I said he was different from Jared Cook, which is extremely different. I mean, he's the guy, obviously this is kind of influenced by watching him with the Rams, but who can hopefully get them yards after the catch over the middle of the field. Yeah. He's not like your strong red zone target by any means. Had some very,
but that's why you have Mike Williams.
Yeah. Right. And yes. And Keenan Allen's like amazing in the red zone. So.
And Keenan Allen, yes.
And
because he can
Austin Eckler catching the ball is incredible.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So where do you think Justin Herbert? Oh, sorry.
Oh, no. I was going to say why I'm kind of like, it's like hesitant for me to like make them higher, even though I'm sure their highs are going to be the high. Like it's the highlight offense. It's so cool watching Justin Herbert play. But because of the weaknesses, I think they have the tight end room. And really, after the running back depth outside of Eckler, I was a little lower on Spiller than some others. But last year, it was so frustrating watching them. And I think Austin Eckler got frustrated because he kind of like more or less called out the other running backs. Yeah. Is none of them could handle protection. Any of them. Yeah. Like none of them. And so they had to limit their offense because they couldn't trust their tight ends of running backs to pick up anybody if they blitzed. If you watch them against the Ravens, I want to say, the Ravens just blitzed them out of the game. And so the Chargers had to like go basic protections. And so why that matters is you can't get to the fun, cool plays that you want to get to if you can't protect it. If you can't like actually like get everybody out, all 5 eligible receivers out on routes. So I think they just ran some limitations with that. So that's why I'm like, and also with the right tackle, like you mentioned, like where it's like, yes, they were 4th in DVOA last year, and it was still like there's so much room for improvement. And I think they're naturally going to get it because Justin Herbert's a phenom, and they have so many other nice pieces. But there's going to be, I think, once in a while they'll get maybe personnel won't be up to snuff against some of the better defenses.
I was just like, as you were talking, I was looking up Eckler's carries last year. As an Austin Eckler fantasy owner, I loved the fact that he was used significantly more than every other running back. Okay. So like, I think like they kind of started to figure out. This was an interesting offense to watch schematically for all the reasons you mentioned. I think a lot of people were really frustrated at the beginning of the season. And as the season went on, I think the offense sort of evolved. The question I was going to ask you is like, where do you think Justin Herbert finished in air yards per attempts, average depth of target last year?
11th.
19th.
Woo.
Yeah.
They love running stick. Hey, they love that quick game.
I bet if you do that a first and second half split, though, it's probably a lot higher in the second half of the season, right. I would guess. Although there were games where that was not the case. And yeah, I mean, I think, this is offense where I think people were frustrated by how relatively inefficient they were on first and second down, even though, Herbert was sensational on third downs, finished first in EPA per play over the course of the entire season. I think just like another year of him and Joe Lombardi, I think that's a good thing. We're going to continue to see this offense grow and Justin Herbert grow. The fact that I was a little bit surprised by how much money they give to Mike Williams, but I think that they have a lot of confidence. Herbert has a lot of confidence in him. Yeah. I also think, and this is where I was a little bit concerned, I love Keenan Allen. He showed a little bit of signs of aging this last season. A little bit. Also drops, which is weird as hell. Like whenever he dropped the ball, I was like, what? Why? So confusing to me. But I still think this
it's like when you see bad CGI.
Right. You're just like
your eyes like that doesn't look right.
That doesn't look right. Right? I mean, you remember, I don't have his drops in front of me, but there's
not that new Stranger Things season though. That CGI is spruced up.
Talk about that later. For me, this is just like, I like the Zion Johnson edition.
I do love that. That's one of my favorite draft picks of the entire draft was that the Chargers taking Zion Johnson. I love that one.
Austin Eckler is also like amazing, I think. And like,
yes,
I think
my second team all pro pick last year.
Incredible. It finishes near the top of the NFL in most advanced metrics. I think that bolstering the right side of that line, even at least on the interior, will help him a lot as well. I think this is going to be a really balanced offense. And for me, it's just like Justin Herbert is kind of my answer. There are more question marks for me with this team than the other teams we discussed, but Justin Herbert. So, all right.
Justin Herbert, who's only entering year 3, by the way.
Wild.
This is just wild.
Maniac.
Wild. No, I completely agree with you, is that every question mark I have, I answer with number 10. It's just like, okay, well, they still have Justin Herbert to help them out. So this is a top 5 offense. I know it sounded negative throughout that piece, but this is still a top 5 offense. I mean, I still think their highs are going to be so high.
Last year, hold on, let me just pull up. They finished 4th in DVOA, and 5th in EPA per play. And that was year 2, new coordinator, like still much significant, I think a worse offensive line. Rashawn Slater year 1, like this is, they're solid. All right. After the break, let's see if we have the same team at number 6. All right, Nate. So to recap, your top 5 went Chiefs, Bucks, Rams, Bills, Chargers. My top 5 was Bills, Bucks, Chiefs. Wait, who did I have at 5? I never gave you my 5 team because I had the Rams at 6. Okay, so you reveal me your number 6, and I'll tell you if I had them at 5. Go.
My number 6 is Cincinnati Bengals.
Wow.
And what's yours?
Also the Cincinnati Bengals.
There it is.
Yeah, I was. Oh, right. I didn't reveal my top 5 because I'm really not good at this. Okay. Wait, no. I had the Rams at 6. Sorry. I'm getting confused by this. Okay. So I had the Bengals at 6.
You're confused. So everyone's going to yell at me. Like, okay.
Everyone's going to yell at me for having the Bengals at 7. I had the Rams at 6. Right. Sorry.
Okay.
I'm trying to keep a track of yours. I'm getting confused in my mind. So I had a totally different team at 5. And this is one I was like, I'll go first, I guess, because I had the Raiders at 5.
Okay.
Is that crazy? Leap of faith. I should have taken the Bengals. I'm changing it. I'm swapping them. Watching them.
Audible.
I'm calling an audible. Okay. I'm switching them. At the second, so I waffled so much on these 3 picks and the order to put them in, as you know, because I kept texting you like, where should I have the Bengals? I had the Rams at 6. So I went Raiders, Rams, Bengals. I'm changing it.
Okay.
I'm changing it. I'm going Bengals, Rams, Raiders. So let's talk about the Bengals.
Okay.
I'm so easily convinced. I suck at this.
I'm like marking him down. I'm like, okay.
No,
writing it down.
I was really like, I felt like I was like, let me put the Raiders. And then as soon as he said it, and I started looking at the chart again, and I just started thinking about it. And then I looked at the Bengals. I just got spooked again. Okay, let's go with the Bengals.
So I'll say real quick too. I know you were saying go with the Bengals. The Raiders were my last drop at the end. Like, they didn't make.
You don't have them in the top 10?
They're 11 for me, and but I can be convinced them after top 6. That's when 7.
Wow. Oh my God. Okay, so we're gonna talk about the Raiders after this.
We'll talk about it.
Yeah, because they're my 7 team now. Okay, let's talk about the Bengals. Let's talk. Oh my God. Okay. I can't believe you have that 11.
I know. I was dreading if you were going to say the Raiders. I was like, she's going to mention them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Raiders later.
We'll talk about
it. Okay, let's talk about the Bengals. Bengals, same wide receiver group, arguably the best in the NFL. If not one of the best in the NFL. C.J. Uzomah's gone. Hayden Hurst is in. Offensive line continues to improve. You bring in Alex Kappa, Ted Karras, La'el Collins to make basically the right side of the line. Otherwise, everything's the same. So you were a little skeptical of the Bengals. So I actually want to ask you, because what made you decide to put them on the list?
This feels. I knew I have them in my top 10. It was just how high, and I feel pretty good about right here, about 6 right here, because yes, you're betting on Burrow and the receivers. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. But the offensive line. even if they didn't really get stars across the board, Lyle Collins was more solid last year than good, but I still think he'll get bopped because he'll be healthier. And Kappa is more solid. It's so much better than it's just getting to average is so much better than
I felt like when like people when the signings were made, everyone was like Alex Kappa, like take care, superstar. And I'm like, like these are good guys, but like our last memory is of Joe Burrow getting murdered. So these are
exactly
he won't get murdered anymore.
Hey, C's get degrees, so that's kind of what they're going.
They're better than C's, but
yeah, they are better than C's. I know, but I didn't want to say B's and B minus, and that kind of ruined the joke. So now I'm explaining it, so it's already ruined even more. Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
How did you learn to embrace the Bengals?
Yeah. With the Bengals, they can be a frustrating offense. They're very siloed. And what I mean by, I think maybe I've talked about this on the show is, okay, on second and long, they do this. On second and third, 1 through 4, they do this. On first down, they do this. On third down, they do this. It's they telegraph, or they are very, their tendencies are very strong. And it works for them in the sense that because they got freaking great players. They got the best, I would say the best receiver core in the league. Plus with Joe Burrow, who is one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the league and is willing to give his guys chances. The thing with that offense, it was reliant on explosive plays. It was relying on coin flips. And maybe if it's not total coin flips because Jamar Chase and T. Higgins are so good at these types of plays and more 60-40, you're still, that's still 40% failure rate, And I think that's why you would watch this Bengals team and you watch a couple drives and you're like, who can stop this team? No one's going to be able to stop this. And then you watch some drives, or you watch like games like against the Broncos, where you're like, this offense sucks.
That was gross game.
Gross. And that was, shout out to, Vic Fangio, but like they were figured out, they kind of like baited them into doing the worst tendencies that the Bengals have. So I feel comfortable with them here because their highs are so high, but this is more of, does Zach Taylor have adjustments in him? More pressure's on him and he has no more excuses, I think. Your offensive line is fine, solid. You have Joe Burrow still, another year Joe Burrow. You have great receivers. The tight end is a little drop off from going Uzama to Hurst, but they don't use the tight end too much in the passing game just because they have Tyler Boyd and slot receiver. They still have Joe Mixon. I think that it's more, are you betting on Zach Taylor to adjust? Are you betting on Zach Taylor to add to the plays that Joe Burrow likes? Joe Burrow has a couple plays that he loves. 989, Y cross. He has a couple plays he loves. They dressed them up. They did a better job of dressing them up. Okay, now what's the adjustment off of that? I think it's too hard to just live with 3 fastballs or 3 pitches, or however you want to put it. They need a new thing to throw in there, a new variable. So that's where I'm kind of a little hesitant, where I think they might be more of a better, more consistent team, but kind of finish the same, if that makes sense. Like it's more consistent, but less explosive.
I like the versatility that they have in their like if they like, so, we talked a lot about how teams adjusted to the Bills and Chiefs, playing back against their deep threats. I think like the Bengals are going to run into that a little bit with Chase doing what he did towards the end of the season, and you kind of saw like what defense is like, whoa, like, okay, this guy's maybe one of the best deep threats in the NFL, and Joe Burrow's willing and accurate in delivering him the ball there. You obviously saw some defenses bracketing him and such, but I like the fact that this team has a lot of change-ups in their arsenal. The running game is effective. I mean, the offensive line, as bad as they were, was actually like fairly decent at run blocking last year. They're going to be better this year. They've got a good running back.
It was the same play every time too. It was awesome.
Okay, what was the one? Yeah, and I was going to say, was it the Steelers where they just kept spamming outside zone? It was like, oh my God, you really can't. No, it wasn't the Steelers.
They had a game against the Raiders, I think, too, where
maybe
they did
that.
I could be wrong, but but no, it's the same run over and over. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, and so I think that I like the versatility. I think this wide receiver group just absolutely slaps. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Like who? I guess if you count tight ends, it gets a little bit complicated. But I think T. Higgins has a big leap in him. Candidly, like I think. As much as we talked about, he was so far as much as we talked about Chase, and some of the insane things he did, not just as a deep threat, but like after the catch, just bonkers stuff. Asked the Baltimore Ravens. I think T. Higgins is extremely. I think he has the potential to be like a top 3 player of that type in the NFL.
Yeah.
Just the guy who's going to make those like
ball winner
catches, possession guy over the middle, and I think there's still something to be unlocked there because he can turn those into explosives as well, and they don't have to be deep, right? So, I just and then
pick your poison.
Yeah, it is like so. I think I just really feel like they have such a strong base, and I think Joe Burrow, at this point, it's not like Justin Herbert. I feel like he was just so freaking good last year. Like I just so accurate. So like the decision making was really impressive. He takes some unnecessary sacks, and I think that a better offensive line, we'll see how that evolves. But the pocket movement is just so special with him. So like I feel like this offense, they struggled a lot at the beginning of the season. There were some growth issues. I think next year is going to be a big year for them.
Oh, I agree. And that's where it's just that their explosive plays are so cool. Like it's because it's truly football at its simplest. Like our guy is better than your guy.
Go post go. Yeah. Right.
Good luck. And I'm glad you highlighted T. Higgins because that's caught up in the Jamar Chase highs, or the talk of Jamar Chase is how effective and explosive T. Higgins was. He was 4th in DVOA for receivers last year, 5th in DYAR from Football Outsiders. Those are both above Jamar Chase.
Yeah.
Chase was 11th in DVOA and 6th in DYAR. So like the top 5 for DYAR by Football Outsiders is Cooper Kupp, Devontae Adams, Justin Jefferson, Mike Evans, and T. Higgins. That's the top 5. And so all those counting stats, those advanced stats speak to it. The eye test speaks to it. Him just dunking on guys and becoming a better route runner as well. And yeah, it's so hard to defend having one true number 1 receiver, but having 2 guys that can win essentially every one-on-one matchup it's terrifying for defenses. And then you got a great zone beater in Tyler Boyd in the middle. It's really, 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 really hard to stop. And I'm also glad you spoke to the run game as well. That's where I was talking about how it's siloed.
Yeah,
I want to see blend.
I know. It really was like, okay, they're running the ball. Okay, they're passing the ball.
It looked like Dan Orlowski's plate. Like everything's separated and nothing blends. But
speaking of cooking, like this team, it feels like they have the ingredients to actually be number 1. The question is is the cook going to use them properly? Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of Higgins,
not let Joe cook. Let Zach blend. And that's.
I don't know about that though. But yeah, I mean, Joe, if you just broke down any split, man, zone, blitz, pressure, he was certainly one of those unblitzable quarterbacks, by the end of last season. Yeah. And then Higgins, by the way, you're talking about some of the advanced metrics. One that jumped out to me, NGS has this stat, catch rate over expectation, second in the NFL. I mean, just sensational. Okay, so Bengals respecter, had them at 5. Granted, I changed it at the last minute. Let's talk about the Raiders because I've got the Raiders at 7. I'm sticking with the Raiders at 7. You don't even have them on this list. You absolutely hater.
Thank you for emphasizing that.
Okay, listen. They have one of the 2, I would say, a top 2 player at wide receiver, slot receiver.
Yeah.
Okay, let me go to top 3. Top 3 player at wide receiver.
Okay.
Slot receiver, tight end. Because I wanted to include Darren Waller. I mean, I know the offensive line is probably why.
That's what I was just about to say.
They're not.
How many of their starters
bad.
can you name outside of Colton Miller?
Well, I have them in front of me, so I'm not going to lie to you and pretend like I. Yeah. I mean, I don't. Is Alex Leather going to be a backup this year? I guess maybe.
Apparently, he lives in the same neighborhood as my parents too, which is funny.
Oh, because they're in Vegas.
So.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
Even with that offensive line, I thought Derek Carr, was quite aggressive. Always been a question with him. No, this is always the thing with Derek Carr. It's like, are you gonna throw the ball down?
No.
Throw it down the line? And I actually thought last year he was impressive, not only in his aggression, obviously, Henry Ruggs and that horrible tragedy kind of changed the calculus for what they were doing on the field, but also like playmaking. So I pulled this because I wanted to see something. Derek Carr, when the time to throw was 4 seconds or more, near the top of the NFL in a lot of metrics. Third in completion percentage over expectation. That's ahead of Justin Herbert. I thought I was really impressed by the fact. I thought last year he broke a lot of kind of the Derek Carr stereotypes. It's continued to in terms of the aggression, the playmaking, that kind of thing. So this is a team that really struggled in the red zone. Now you have the most uncoverable red zone wide receiver in the NFL, coupled with, I think, a slot receiver who's the second most behind Cooper Kupp. Darren Waller.
He's dynamite down there.
Oh. And
he's
now you have
in the red zone.
Freaking Josh McDaniels coaching him.
Yeah.
He's going to go nuclear.
No.
I think
that's why it was tough for me.
Well, my biggest question actually, so when they hired Coach McDaniels before the trade for Devontae Adams, and he brought over the Patriots fullback, Jakob Johnson. And, you're like, okay, you got, two good tight ends, Foster Moreau, in addition to Waller. You've got one of the best slot receivers in the NFL, and you've got a good run game and a good fullback. He's going to go New England, West Coast. But then they signed Devontae Adams, and now I'm like, what's this going to look like? I think the fact that they have, though, a very, 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 very smart offensive coach and these ingredients, I think they're going to cook.
No, and it was tough for me because I've become more of a fan of Josh McDaniels, watching him with Cam Newton and then watching him with Mac Jones and going, oh, okay, you know how to kind of like adjust some stuff. This is interesting.
You remember when the Tom Brady suspension year, like watching that offense with Brissett and Jimmy. Yeah, I'm just like, I think he's very good at that. So
yeah, I've become more and more of a fan of him, like as I've matured as he's matured, watcher, but as he's matured too. And I think he's came to the Raiders, and he's got a better mindset. These guys, I don't want to say the term retread like it's derogatory, but a guy that gets a second chance. You see that they can adjust usually, and he's had a lot of time to kind of really maybe adjust from some mistakes he made in Denver. So that is why it was hard for me to keep him off this list. And they were my last cut. And it's a barely last cut. But speaking to your Derek Carr stuff, he's never thrown the ball over 20 yards more than in his entire career than he did last year. He had 81 attempts last year over 20 yards or more. In the last 4 years, these are stats I can pull up right now, the next highest was 63. So, and that was the year before. That was 2020. The year before that he had 41 attempts over 20 yards more. So he's almost doubled in the last couple of years. And he's efficient on those. His EPA gone up in those. Their play action rate kind of bumped up a little bit, and his EPA off of that's gone up a bit. So those are some of the question marks. So I agree with you that the areas that he was supposed to improve upon were his frustrations, even when I was with him in the Raiders, was, can you launch the ball deep, take some chances, and can you scramble sometimes when the defense takes away? And I think he's really worked at trying to improve on those to make his life easier, because when he's hot, he can make a lot of really good throws, and he's very cerebral with protection stuff. But yeah, it is really just like being more aggressive. And I think McDaniels is going to bring it out of him. But I love that you brought up the fullback usage, because I did a piece on question marks with all the new offensive play callers, and I was like, how the hell are they going to use this personnel? They got Hunter Renfrow,
post Adams trade.
Yes, post Adams.
Okay,
trade.
yeah, right.
Yes. How the hell are they going to use Renfrow, who's a monster from the slot? He's okay from the outside, along with a fullback and Darren Waller. I'm very curious how McDaniels, because I've seen him get more creative. How is he going to mix all these variables together? So, but really my main blemish, why I have them outside the top 10, is the offensive line. And really that's what's going to come down to. Derek Carr under pressure, when he gets hit a lot, when he has a lot of hands in his faces, can waver. He can go up and down. So that's where my main concerns come in. But I definitely do think they're going to be in that top 10 conversation, top 12 conversation throughout the year, though.
I will be curious to see, like, so, the Patriots use a lot of play action. The Raiders use amongst at least in the NFL. I wonder if that's something that they'll lean on a bit more in terms of like also like alleviating that pressure. There's just so much versatility on this roster, inside out versatility. I mean, Davante Adams, you can play anywhere. And you're talking about the deep stuff. Like, I think we think of like, Nelson Aguilar, like Deshaun Jackson. Yeah. Davante Adams is a crazy deep threat. I mean, he's the most, I think him and Kupp are the most complete receivers in the league. And it's just, man, how do you cover Davante Adams, Darren Waller, and Hunter Renfrow? You get to the quarterback. That's about it. So, and we'll see. All right. So you had no, I'm just trying to, okay. So you had the Bengals at 6. So
trying to list it off again.
We're on to 7. So, Can I guess who you have here? Now that I know that you don't have the Raiders.
Yeah.
I think you might have the team that I have at 8, the Baltimore Ravens.
Oh, no, I have the Ravens at 8.
Okay. So you had 7.
Okay. So, Cowboys.
Woo!
And this was spicy. They're
on the cusp for me.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to talk out both sides of my mouth here because everything I just brought up, all the negatives I just brought up. The offensive line.
I actually have a hot take. I think that Cowboys offensive line, assuming Tyron Smith stays healthy, I actually think they'll be okay because, like, I think people overestimated the La'el Collins loss a little bit.
Yes.
When Terrence Hill came in. Yeah. I think, they're not the same, but assuming the Tyler Smith draft pick works out, I could see them actually being pretty solid.
Yep. No, and that's one of my main arguments for this is that I don't think the Cowboys offensive line was as dominant as people. It was a lot of kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of like stuff that came from before. Like it was everyone had these high feelings of the Cowboys offensive line from
it ain't 2014.
Residuals. There we go. Residuals in 2021. But it was more like they were more of a solid offensive line. I'm actually higher on Tyler Smith, a lot higher than a lot of other people are. I think he's a very talented player. I'm curious to see him at guard, but I think he has a chance to be a long-term answer at left tackle. He's got to work on his hands. But other than that, I think there's going to be some improvement through through subtraction from losing Amari Cooper. I thought him and CeeDee Lamb had some redundancy with their skill set as far as kind of Amari's best actually on the move when he's working from the slot and he doesn't get pressed. And CeeDee Lamb is best when he's on the move working from the slot. So I thought they kind of, they couldn't really get them both to get in their best situations always. So I think that's going to actually help just focusing CD's role. And him and Dak have fantastic chemistry. I really like Dalton Schultz, improved as a blocker. He's a great safety valve. No tight end since 2019 has had more first downs on 3rd and 4th down than Dalton Schultz. Like his first down percentage is the highest, 65.2%. A healthy Michael Gallup as their X. That makes sense. He's a true X receiver. This is another, much like Sean Payton or Joe Lombardi, very traditionally based offense of how they put everybody. Yeah. He's their X, which is also a negative. I'll get to in a sec. But Jalen Tolbert, who they drafted in the 3rd round, he's great on the intermediate deep stuff. I think how those 3 receivers blend together fits a little bit more than with Amari when he was there. I think their run game was looking really good at the beginning of the year. Zeke's banged up. Like he kind of fades as the season goes on. It is what it is. Pollard best on the outside stuff. So it's like they have to figure out what the balance is with those two. Mike McCarthy came out this I think today or yesterday.
Okay, so I want to talk about this. Yeah.
Oh, what using Dak in the run game?
So what frustrated? Okay,
I was going to get one of the negatives with it.
Yeah, that bothered me. That didn't bother me, but what frustrated me a lot about watching Dak in the second half of the season wasn't that he wasn't used as a design runner. It was that he abjectly refused to scramble. And that was, I don't, and maybe my hope is that it was kind of because of the high ankle sprain, maybe there's some tentativeness there, but God, the number of times in which he could have picked up first downs or gotten close to it, was really frustrating to watch down the stretch.
Oh, I'm so glad he brought it up because I was going to say my main frustration with my man Dak is that it seemed like he wanted to be the supreme pocket passer. and sometimes I'm like, just be an athlete, just go scramble, get that first down. Like you said, the injuries might have mattered. Probably did matter, but this is the fewest amount of times he's scrambled since 2018. It's the least amount of EPA per scramble he's had since 2018. It's the lowest EPA per designed run since 2018. All the numbers have dropped. They dropped off a cliff. It wasn't even like he was average. It was bad. But I love Dak because he's such a good all around. He's so accurate. He'll attack all areas of the field. He's good at every type of throw, but what I thought made him even better was his ability to run. So yes, he needs to sometimes not have to make everything perfect and attack from the pocket and just tuck it and run for those 7 yards and get the first down and make your life easier. So kind of almost what we've talked about with Derek Carr, or frustrations we had with him, is like Dak needs to get back to what he used to be.
Yeah, 100%. And if we get if we get pre-injury Dak, this is a top 5 offense. Like that Dak was incredible. That was MVP Dak. I just
so that Patriots game. He popped that calf or the ankle or whatever it was. Yep.
So for me, it's just like, let's see it, but I love all of your points about the wide receiver group and how they might blend together well. That's going to be interesting to watch play out. I think a lot of heat on Kellen Moore this year, a lot of pressure, I think I'm part of that. I'm going to be part of that heat a little bit. He's got to get his guys on the move more. Too many stationary routes. And that's where I was going to say the negative of being a traditional offense is too many routes where the guys are stopping as opposed to going on the move and creating yards after the catch. So I think he's got to add some more pitches to his arsenal. So we both have the Ravens at 8. You recently wrote about sort of what happened to the Ravens offense, right?
Yes, I did.
So
Lamar and just whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever the hell that offense was last year.
I think that's a good place to start because I think we're both putting them in the top 10. I think we're both assuming that they make a pretty significant improvement. I feel like for both of us, I'm guessing that starts with the offensive line. As much as people talk about the receiver group and obviously there's a lot of huge question marks there, and there's a lot of pressure on rookie or second year receiver Rashad Bateman to step up after Marquise Brown left. That wasn't the problem. The problem was the offensive one. I mean, it wasn't great at times, and I'll include Nick Boyle, one of the better blocking tight ends in the NFL in this mix. They were decimated. I mean, I think in your piece you talked about. Did you talk about Lamar Jackson at empty and how much he struggled last season compared to previous seasons?
Yes,
if I remember correctly.
Yep. Yes.
Freaking! It was like the is it 300 where the guys come pouring through the wall? Is that it? That's what it was like every time he was in empty. It was a nightmare fuel. It was. I mean, so Ali Villanueva is retired. Bradley Bozeman's gone. So you got Ronnie Stanley coming back from injury. Draft Tyler Linderbaum at center, and you signed Morgan Moses, who's a solid right tackle. And then, you have Tyree Phillips, Kevin Zeitler at guard, Patrick McCarry, who can be a swing tackle. You draft Daniel Falalele, the gigantic tackle. So, there's no way they can be worse than they were. No way. Not gonna win.
Exactly. They had, knock on wood. They had, in Football Outsiders database, no team has lost more games to adjusted games lost than the Ravens were last year. That's their whole team.
In 20 years, I believe. It was in 20 years, they've never, a lot of that is the defense we don't talk about, but God, they were decimated. Yeah,
oh man. And it's that I'm glad you brought up the empty stuff. And that's where, when they had to pass, because they're playing Devontae Freeman at running back, and they lost their 3 starters at running back. They had offensive line injuries. They're still able to do some fun stuff in the run game, but that's where this offense is built. I mean, obviously with Lamar's talents and also with what Greg Roman is good at. Greg Roman is a great run game coordinator, and in the passing game he gets lost in the sauce too much. They try to do so much and all these different adjustments and different read routes. And you can just see that their guys couldn't handle it, whether it's through injuries, youth. They had a lot of guys running routes in the same area, which made Lamar's life hell because he already struggles with timing anyways. And that just made it even worse. So I just think that honing in, I'm glad you brought up the empty stuff because that was limitations of scheme. It was Greg Roman not having a good answer. And it was the Bengals game where it started to get exposed. And then the Dolphins Thursday night game where it was like, oh my God, it was every single snap they were in empty. He got pressured. I think it was something, I think I had a stat. It was The Ravens were in empty 8 times a game with Lamar at QB, and he was pressured on half of those snaps. So he was pressured on 4 out of 8 snaps when they were in empty. The NFL average is 1.5. So essentially triple the usual rate of that. So they need to figure that out if they want to live that way. The run game is going to be better just through health. J.K. Dobbins is, I think, a good player, and I'm excited to see what he can do this year. Linderbaum pulling will be a lot of fun. Mark Andrews was a freaking monster last year.
He's their number one. Yeah,
he's their number one.
He's their number one. So like everyone's like, oh, do they have Trey? Well, I actually think Rashad Bateman, you and I both are very high on him, has the potential to be like their X receiver. I thought you really saw a lot of those qualities that I think we both loved about him in college on display. But he started the season injured. He took him a while, which is always bad for rookies, by the way, right? Because you really need that entire, ramping up process. But the route running, the hands, instantly the best hands on the roster. He can actually, I think, beat press. He has play strength. I have a lot of confidence.
Play inside and out.
Yeah, inside out.
I'm doing a breakout player article right now, and he's my. I have one for each position. He's my receiver candidate. Just for what you laid out. He inside and outside versatility. He can just do. He's just a good all around player. I compared him to Reggie Wayne coming out, just kind of play style, and that's what I think he can be. Kind of like a Diet Coke version of that. I actually don't think losing Hollywood Brown is as bad as people have made it out to be. He was not good. Yes, he had 1,000 yards, but I mean, if you look at every efficiency, every advanced stat, even eye tests. Frustrating drops. He wasn't good on deep balls. He's too small to kind of work in how they wanted to use him. So I think it was good for both parties, for him to go to Arizona and then them not to have to use him, because I just didn't think his style matched what they wanted to do.
I'll be curious to see. So it's Andrews, who, by the way, I put Darren Waller in their top 3, but Andrews is really, I would say, like, Waller was hurt last year. Andrews is absolutely incredible.
And Andrews was 3rd in first down per target for players with more than 100 targets. He was just behind Devontae Adams and Mike Evans. He was 3rd in the whole NFL. He was a monster.
And he's so good with Lamar because, like, obviously, he's so good at working the seams in the parts of the field that Lamar does like to throw to, but also he's really good when the play breaks down. I mean, how many times? Some of them remember that really freaky one where Lamar went back like 20 yards and then found Andrews? Like, I can't remember which game that was. It was a night game. It might have been against the Browns.
Steelers?
I think it was the Browns, actually. It was the poop game. It was the poop game. Right? When he came back out and he was just like,
it was his Paul Pierce game.
It was F it. Andrews up there somewhere, and Andrews, they have such a great connection. Would you describe Andrews as a power slot?
Yeah, I mean that's it's the hybrid roles now. That's really what he is. He is. No, I love that.
So I
but also getting guys on the move. Like Andrews is so good on over routes and crossers, and that's what Lamar likes to throw. He doesn't like to pin throws on guys. He likes to see guys crossing his face and then throw it to him. And that's what Andrews is so good at, those over routes, and that's why I think he's going to have some good chemistry with Rashad Bateman too, because Bateman has such good hands that. He maximizes yak because he can trust his hands on the move. So I think, again, it's a better synergy with everybody. Just the same with like how the Cowboys receivers were.
It would be nice, and this might be the kind of thing that moves them from 7-4 or whatever, is if I think the biggest thing is, can Rashad Bateman be the dude? But behind that, can one of the other young receivers, whether it's Devin Duvernay as a burner or James Prochet, it's Prochet, right? Not Prochet, right?
I'm terrible at names.
Okay, so not used a lot. But I think, whether he's
they
also
need one of them to be decent
speed and can be sort of useful for them when they get those zone looks. So I just think, just one guy, just like Tylan Wallace.
And I like Duvernay. And I like Tylan Wallace. Tylan Wallace is another guy with an old man at the YMCA game. Like, he's not very fast and doesn't create a lot of separation, but he's skilled. Yeah. So, I'm curious to see what he does.
Duvernay, it's like, he's obviously fast as hell. It's like, okay, is he a gadget guy, or can you actually have him? I wouldn't say replace Hollywood, but fill that role in some cases.
Be a real receiver, quote unquote.
Okay. Yeah. So we're both at 9. So this is, I think we're on 2 hour mark or something. Dan, tell me, please, in the text. Okay, who do you have at number 9? I'm not going to try to guess.
I have no idea here. I went with the Packers.
It gets real weird. I would say so. I said the 1 through 8 was settled, although you had the Cowboys in there and I didn't. 9 through I would say 12. You can put these teams in any order.
I was more like 7 through 12. That's that's where I started. I like all these guys, but I went with the Packers at 9.
Okay.
And it's a bet on Aaron Rodgers, and I'm hoping. Okay, by the way, before I even talk, this is maybe want to drop them, and I even just texting you about it. But what the hell's going on with David Bakhtiari?
I just saw today that saying someone said he's likely to show up at camp or something, or so.
And then they had the side comment of saying this is what they expected in 2021 as well.
Oh no! You never want a side comment. Yeah.
No, I know. So they're again, and this is a theme for this, is their offensive line is. I'm like, I could see the Packers rising depending on how their health is and who they have starting where. Like I want to see that, because this is a team that has said that they're leaning more to defense and running the ball, which is fine. They have the 2-time reigning MVP. You know, he is getting older, but this is what his second half of his career, this is what he's excelled in, is this type of offensive attack. Helps when you have Devontae Adams as well. AJ Dillon is a stud. Aaron Jones is a great player. Robert Tonyan was super efficient when he was playing in 2020. He led all tight ends in DVOA, just above Darren Waller and Kittle. Very, very, very good player there if he's healthy. It's just that, yes, their receiver room is a big question mark as well. Alan Lazard, I actually am a big fan of Alan Lazard. He was very efficient in his targets. I think he can end up being a good number 2 in this league. But who's the number 1? I think Christian Watson is a big project for them. I understand the upside about him, but he's going to take some time just based off what he's showed at North Dakota State. And Rodgers already had a little side comment about him. He said, this is why we need production, not projection. He has already said that in OTAs.
Okay.
So I'm sure that's going really well.
Yeah. I mean, like Christian Watson, I think, did you call him Diet DK, or I feel like I saw that somewhere. I mean, that's the projection, right? Like that he has those DK, those size and this incredible speed.
Yeah.
Not only is Devontae Adams not walking through this door, there's just his skill. There's no one with a skill set even approximating his anymore. They did add Sammy Watkins, kind of interesting. I think
and they're expecting him to play too, because LaFleur has already talked about it.
I think even without Bakhtiari, the offensive line, like they've just done such a good job drafting and developing dudes. Still pretty good. I think getting Tonyan back, who by the way is on my dynasty team, I don't know if you know that, will help a lot. I just this is a very good running back duo. I feel like that Matt LaFleur has shown a really impressive ability to use them creatively. Love Aaron Jones running go routes, by the way, on the backfield. AJ Dillon, okay. First in success rate, 4th in rushing yards over expectation, 2nd in yards after catch per reception.
Yeah, he's got good hands.
He's a monster, man. He's a monster.
He is.
He's a monster.
They can't tackle him.
He's
Every
untackable.
time they run it with him.
Well, that's the rushing yards over expectation, because even if it's like, 3rd and 1, he's going to get you 3, like I just love him.
Like when a bunch of lions jump on an elephant, and they're trying to take it down or whatever. Yeah, that's what it looks like when
untackleable.
When he's pounding the rock. Yeah. Yeah. He's a really good player.
So you have them at
9.
No,
I know. It's interesting. Yep, I have him at 9. Where'd you have him? Just outside?
Just outside. So so I had the Cowboys just outside, and I had the Packers just outside, and I had one more team, which you know what? Never mind. We don't have to talk about that. All right. So my number 19 is the Denver Broncos.
Okay.
They're
my number 10.
Okay, they're number 10. See, people who think I'm a hater, I have them higher ranked more highly than Nate Tice. So I would say with this, group, offensive line, okay, question marks.
Yeah.
I think they need Lloyd Cushenberry. I mean, they brought in Billy Turner to replace whoever they had at the right side last year. I think that should help. Tight end group, you lose Noah Fant. You really need more out of Alberto. They did draft. He's a good player, but they need more out of him. You drafted Greg Dulcich, which was an interesting pick, I thought. Receiver group, very good. Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick, Jerry Jeudy. Let me throw this out here. I don't like Jerry Jeudy and Russell Wilson.
Not bad pairing.
Yeah, bad pairing.
We talk about synergy
and Tim Patrick and potentially
good pairing.
Hamler. Yeah. I just think this offense is going to look like the Seahawks offense has looked over the last few years, and the Seahawks offense was awesome with Russell Wilson. So yeah,
it's the Russell Wilson offense. By the way, that's what it is.
Melvin Gordon is still good. Is that a spicy take?
Nope.
He's still good. People talk about him like, Javonte Williams is so much better. No, he's not. I don't think so.
They just get. I think Melvin Gordon is just, it's just the fancy, it's the new shiny toy. And everyone's like, oh, we already know what he is. We know what he is right now. I would say too is, and you brought up the offensive line, and also just talking about the Packers is, I just wanted to bring it up real quick, is their offensive line coach, Adam Stenovich, I think his name was. Mm-hmm. He was like my candidate for assistant coach of the year last year. And so just speaking how the Packers offensive line, like I agree with you about how they're going to figure out with their run game and stuff, but also with the Broncos, we brought this up. We did after Russell got traded, we did that podcast together, and losing Mike Munchak is going to be a big blow to the Broncos because he got so much improvement from those guys, including Lloyd Cushenberry, who went from to okay. So that's going to be interesting. And I don't know what Nathaniel Hackett is going to look like with this offense. I think he's smart enough to adjust to what Russell wants to do. I just hope he doesn't get hypnotized like a lot of coaches do and going like, ooh, yeah, which is what Russ wants to do this. Let's lean more into that. It's like, no. We know what he's good at. Play action, throw outside. Mm-hmm. I do like Alberto, the tight end. I really do like him. Russell doesn't use his tight ends, but I still like him. He's my candidate for tight end breakout because I couldn't do Kyle Pitts because it was too easy. No, I agree with you. I think Cortland Sutton's going to mesh really well with Russ. And I know you like Tim Patrick, and Tim Patrick is a situational star. Good. He's good at everything. Good blocker, good at every type of route. He's really a really good number two. I like him a little better than Judy. Which I don't think is too spicy anymore. Is that spicy? I was never high on Judy.
Well, I liked him a lot in college, and I think with him it's kind of been like, oh, he's had such bad quarterback play, and he's been banged up at times. But I do worry. Like,
is that quarterback the quarterback of the Seahawks now?
I don't know. This is a non-Seahawks podcast, clearly. By the way, you were talking about O-line coaches, and I forgot to mention something I wanted to mention, which is the Raiders got Carmen Brasillo.
Oh, that's right.
Right. So who comes from the Pats? And, he was. Replace Dante Scarnecchia there. So I think that's going to help as well. But anyways, it
matters.
So, okay. So we're both, I got the Broncos at 9. You got them at 10. Do you have the team that I have at 10 at 9, the Philadelphia Eagles?
No, I think I've already gone through my top 10 because the Packers were 9.
I'm so bad at this. Dan.
So I've already done my top 10.
All right. You had the Packers. So I had the Eagles. You have the Eagles on the cusp.
Eagles were on the cusp. Okay. Yep.
So
I have one more spicy team on the cusp, but I want to hear. Wait,
I want to hear your spicy cusp team. But okay. One of the best options. First of all, the Eagles finished crushed last year, and that was without AJ Brown. Yep. So
really fun offense in the second half of the year.
They're gonna be better. I mean, just you add AJ Brown, and suddenly all of these other receivers slip into a different place. Like, oh man, I think AJ Brown and Devontae Smith is just such a sensational pairing for reasons we can discuss. And then you've got Quez Watkins as your speed guy, Zach Pascal working underneath, Dallas Goedert, one of the most underrated players in the NFL. Just freaking so well-rounded and so perfect for this offense, which is very run heavy. And then incredible offensive line. This offense was, where did they finish last year? Let me pull it up. By the end of the year, they were definitely, so they were 10th in EPA per play, but if you did just the second half of the season, they really popped off once they leaned into Jalen Hurts as a runner and stopped throwing 3,000 screens a game. How are they not insanely better not insanely better, but better with AJ Brown?
No, I know I think it's more an off season of defenses adjusting to how they like to attack. But no, this was hard for me to keep off. It was one of those where it's nothing against them. It was just I like others more because they have better quarterbacks. I like Jalen Hurts as a runner, but he can't read anything between the hashes. So that's my hesitation with them is that playoff game against the Bucs. Was it the Bucs that they played in week 1, or was it the Rams? Whoever they played in the
wild. Oh, it was the Bucs. It was rough. Yeah.
It was the Bucs. That is seared. Use that term again. Seared into my brain. Cattle seared. Like I mean, imprinted what they did to him because they blitzed him because he's not handling protections for them. And also it's that they took away his first read and then they were like, okay, run around. We'll see how that works. So that's my scared part of it, is that teams watch that and they implement it when they play him this year. So they're not able to maybe have an advantage the first few weeks before they have to adjust. Having said that, do love the AJ Brown addition. Love the offensive line. Jordan Mailata is one of the best left tackles in the league right now. They got him on a great deal as well. Love kind of what they're developing there. Some of the guys they also took. They got Lane Johnson. Yeah, no, it's an interesting offense. No other offense is like it because of just the necessity of what Jalen Hurts' skill set is. So it's a really fun one to watch. But that hesitation with Hurts and how this season, those last couple games is what kept him out of the top 10 for me.
I think if Hurts can make a few improvements, I'll feel okay. One of them is on like the short stuff. So he was actually okay throwing the ball to the intermediate level of the field, but really struggled with accuracy on what should have been some easy passes. 20th in QBR, by the way, 0 to 10 air yards. It just looked. So I think if he can make better decisions and improve his accuracy there, which I think is kind of doable, you can see some pretty massive improvements. Like I don't think he's going to start throwing over the middle of the field anytime soon. And then just like I would say like helping him with pressure, having a plan for the blitz, which is something I think they can scheme up given what they have on their roster as well. So I think I mean, the dude's just like surrounded by incredible pieces.
Oh, it's the best situation. If he doesn't grow at all, whatever quarterback is throwing a hissy fit this offseason, it's going to have that.
100%.
Yeah.
Okay. So you said you had a spicy cusp team. Before we get to dinks and dunks, tell me your spicy cusp team.
The Colts. And this is on Matt Ryan and Frank Reich. Yeah, this is that was spicy. Yeah.
Okay. The skill players.
So that was and I have two the ones I put honorable mention. I have like little bullet points next to them on my notes, and my one bullet point with the Colts is not sure about the weapons, but I do think Michael Pittman's going to improve. Alec Pierce might be more of a project, but I do like him. I like Frank Reich. I like the run game, and I like Matt Ryan. So I think this is could be a surprisingly good offense in Indianapolis.
I mean, the Colts. Let's see where they finished. Oh, they didn't finish in the top 10 in any of these metrics. Okay, well, I think they were about
13th in DVOA.
Yeah. So
with the number 2 run game, of course.
With the number 2 run game, and then Matt Ryan's probably going to be better than Carson Wentz. I think most of us agree. Especially dome Matt Ryan. So I see it. The skill players are the ones, or the pass catchers. We'll see.
I just want to throw them an honorable mentions in case they do well, and I can point back to it and say, "Hey, see, I mentioned them. I mentioned 15 teams. One of them's going to break in."
How do you feel about Alec Pierce with Ryan, though? So Alec Pierce. Sorry,
I love Alec Pierce,
but with Matt Ryan.
Yeah, I don't 50-50 balls. Yeah, I think it's gonna be great where he's gonna be best on like benders, because that's why I liked Pierce. Yes, I get another mention of a power slot, but I think that's why I liked him, because I think he could be a kind of intermediate guy from the slot, and that's what Matt Ryan loves to throw. So you use him almost like a tight end, and Matt's pretty good at throwing those types of balls. So that's where I actually liked a little bit of the synergy. And him and Pittman, even though they both have size, they attack in different ways.
Yeah.
And I also think Pierce in the red zone is going to be really he's going to dunk on guys. And I think Matt Ryan will give him a chance. And so I think he'll contribute earlier than even I was expecting. But I liked it more. I liked that fitting more, pairing more, the more I've kind of like sat on it.
Interesting. Yeah. I guess for me, the question is kind of like, okay, well, let's see where Matt Ryan's arm strength is. But, I'm on the Matt Ryan is not over. I'm Matty.
You have so much stock in him.
I have a lot of stock in him. So, okay. I'm throwing out my other cusp team is the New Orleans Saints.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
I mean,
no, that was, I get it.
Get it. skill players.
Chris Olave.
Little bit concerned about Trevor Penning on the left side. Not a little bit, a lot.
I am too.
Wildly concerned.
A lot of it.
A big time bit. Obviously, you're going to get improvement in quarterback play from what they had last year.
Mm-hmm.
But just
not an Ian Book fan. No, the book's out on Book.
Oh my God, I know. It's so hard to be a bad quarterback with a name that can be easily punned. You got to really. It's hard to survive that.
You want to work for it a little bit.
I know. So yeah, assuming Michael Thomas is still Michael Thomas, Chris Olave, that's a great pairing. Jarvis Landry, I don't think that there's massive expectations for him. And then Marquez Callaway goes from being the number one wide receiver to being 4 or 3, depending on how he's used. Amazing.
Also,
as a number 3.
Deontay Harris, or I think he goes by Hardy now, is like a small sample god.
Good player.
If you look at just a good player, and if you look at his advanced stats, he's a phenom. He's the top of so many of the stats. So really, really, really fun kind of super role player.
I feel like this will be a good bounce back year for Kamara. Poor Kamara last year. What a nightmare.
Man.
Poor guy.
He's going to hit as soon as he touched the ball.
God, it was just a poor guy. So that's not going to happen again. Even with some question marks on the offensive line, just all of that firepower. We'll see. I'm not like, oh, Jameis Winston's going to be that dude, but he can be an above average quarterback.
There's a path. Yeah. No. And Eric McCoy being healthy, he's my, he's my candidate for offensive line breakout. Ryan Ramczyk's
still there.
1, 2, or 3 best right tackle in the league, so they do have some strengths still with the offensive line. Yeah. So it's an interesting team. I could see a path where the Saints, their defense, I think, is going to be damn good. So I don't know. It's an interesting team. They're one of the craziest.
Let me ask you this question before we wrap. If they still had Sean Payton, would you put them in the top 10?
Yes.
Yeah, that's why I had them on the cusp. They still have Pete Carmichael, obviously. Pete Carmichael, it's your time.
Yeah. It is. He's only been training for it for 15 years.
That's the Saints offensive coordinator now or he's been. But all right. Good lists. You can yell at me on Twitter. Please don't yell at Nate for being a Bengals hater while I'm a Bengals lover. Because of my audible.
Bengals? You think that's the one that's spicy?
Chiefs at 1 is actually the spiciest one. So get at him.
Yeah.
That's spicy, dude.
Yeah.
That's spicy.
And then I'm just going to reply. I'm going to reply with a picture of Patrick Mahomes. That's all.
I love it. All right. Now it's my turn. Well, I actually have been asking you questions, but we're going to wrap as always with Dinks and Dunks.
And now it's time for Dinks and Dunks. I'm getting paid for this, right?
4 questions from me, 1 question from Lenny. First question. We talked about the 10 best offenses. What is the offense you least want to watch non-Seattle division?
The offense I least want to watch. I hate watching the Cardinals offense. But they're not the worst. That's more of
Kyler just elevates the entertainment value so much you can never.
Yeah, that helps. That's more of a schematic hate. I think Carolina could will be up there, and the Steelers might be up there even with Big Ben gone, just because of how Matt Canada attacks. Other than that, though, there's some interest in other teams, but I would say Carolina is probably my answer.
Yeah, that's a good answer. I said not Seahawks division, but Seahawks should have a great run game. Okay, question number 2. Who is your prediction now for Offensive Rookie of the Year?
Drake London.
Yeah, he's going to get fed.
The sheer amount of targets. Yeah, and also his Falcons teammate's one of my favorite long shot bet. And I think you drafted him, didn't you? Tyler Algier.
I did.
That's my long shot bet for Rookie of the Year, just because of
usage.
What he is. Because I think he's usage, and he's like a Diet Coke James Conner. So I don't know. That's my dark horse. Chris Olave might be another one too.
Yeah, I think Olave is going to be if Mike Thomas isn't 100%.
Yeah,
I think Olave is going to who I also drafted, by the way, and no big deal. Okay, question.
I know.
So, look, I haven't commented. The Deshaun Watson story is ongoing. I've been talking about it a lot on various ESPN platforms. Go check out the incredible reporting from Jenny Vrentas on this, the revelation of, the sheer number of masseuses he's worked with, women coming forward who are accusing him of the same thing, but not suing, notably. I feel like that's gotten lost in all of this. the ongoing growing number of lawsuits. Now we're looking at, I think, 26 as it's actually like one of those things where you have to like kind of timestamp it. Watson did a press conference today, basically, saying, kind of reiterating his denials. But I don't have a question about Deshaun Watson. So we're waiting for that punishment to come down. I think when it does, I'll have more to say about it and like a lot to process. And I think it probably should come pretty soon. But it does feel like, at this point, it's likely to be pretty substantial based on just everything that's come out, even since the trade was done. I had this conversation with Chris Long, and I've been like thinking it over and pondering it. Baker Mayfield doesn't have to. His agreement with the Browns doesn't have to come to camp. Clearly, a lot of bad blood now between him and his organization. Mm-hmm. Fairly. However, if you're Baker, and let's say Watson's out at least 10 games season, is it in your best interest to play to rebuild your value with this football team? It's tricky.
Wow.
It's tricky, right?
Yeah. I think it is.
It is.
For him. Because his stock is, it can't be lower.
And it's unfairly low, I think, because of how injured he was last year. Like, people are like, Baker Mayfield is one of the 32 best quarterbacks in the NFL.
Yeah,
no
exactly.
question.
He should be a starter.
Yes.
Like that's what I know. That's where the jokes become the reality. Perception is reality. It's like I think that the thing with Baker, what happened with him is everyone was expecting him to take this leap into a true Pro Bowl level quarterback, a good to very good quarterback. And when he was average or worse, people were like, oh, he can't even play. Can't play. And it's like, no, he can still start. Like, he's still a starting quarterback. It's just that maybe his upside isn't what we expected, but he was hurt. The Browns season was weird. They also kind of just, they didn't help him at times. He had no receiver help, it was a whole,
still not a great, they do have Amari now, but it's not a great.
Yeah. Record. It's weird. I know. I like David Bell, another power slot. That's 6 now. That's 6 times now. But I do like that, but I don't know. They're more of a concept than a theory than like what I really want to picture of it. Either if it's Baker or Deshaun Watson starting a quarterback for him. Sure. I think it's in Baker's best interest because I also think he would build some goodwill and credibility. Everyone talks in this league. He comes back and battles his ass off and competes because not only just his play, but his persona has been knocked. And that's how the NFL loves to do. They love to knock you down as much as possible. So I think Baker would earn some goodwill with agents, coaches, execs, other players if he came back, kind of like put his nose to the grindstone and battled and led them to some wins. I think they would be in his best interest.
It's wild because on one hand, like your mind just goes to the Office Space departure or the half-baked one. I think maybe makes the most sense, which I won't.
F you.
Yeah. Who's the not you? Cool. Nick Chubb is the you're cool.
Nick Chubb,
you're cool.
You're cool.
And the petty in me is like, God, why would you? Right? Like, but
right.
It's complicated. It's really complicated.
It is. It's a people business. It really is.
Also, man, like, what if he plays well? Because there are a lot of Browns fans right now who are very angry. A lot. And
oh my God.
What an unbelievable wild situation, top to bottom. And
it really is.
Yeah. Anyways. I hope I'm not like,
it really
it's unprecedented. And I don't mean to set aside the very serious aspects of this, which I think I'm going to have a chance to talk about pretty soon once, more comes out and decisions are made. But like from Baker's perspective, I find this to be like a fascinating dilemma. All right. I find myself rooting for him, by the way.
Right? Total face turn.
Yeah.
I know. He went face to heel, back to face. It's kind of crazy.
All right. Question 4. A little bit of a sharp turn here as well. Always ask for content recommendations. You always have good ones. So please share.
I'm reading a couple good books right now. I'm reading, one book I just read was How to Hide an Empire.
Okay.
Which I highly recommend. And it's about the kind of like how America acquired its territories, as we like to call them. The other one I just started was The Rise, and I don't want to butcher the title because it just came out. The Rise and Reign of the Mammals. Which is by an author named Stephen Brissett. He also wrote The Rise and Fall of Dinosaurs, which I loved. I read last year, but both of those books I would highly recommend. And also the season 4 of Stranger Things.
Okay. I just started it, so don't spoil it. Don't spoil it.
I won't. But they did a good job of kind of recovering after
it looks
crap of season 2 and 3.
So expensive. I just started it. But that's my number one take. I'm like, every episode looks like a movie. I want to get your okay.
Yeah, we'll text later, but okay. There's some scenes I want to talk about.
As far as your books go, I'm glad I had you on this week because I knew I could count on you for Father's Taste. And it's Father's Day is coming up, and you have that classic.
Let's get Danny Kelly on here too.
Classic dad books. All right, we've taken
documentaries and books. That's what I'm good for.
Taking a lot of your
board
time.
Games. Do you need a board game?
No, I don't. Last question, as always, comes from Lenny. So Lenny did watch the draft unfold. He just wants to know. Maybe he's asked you this already, but I don't care. How does it feel to know that you do twice as much work in this league as I do, Lenny's mom, but you're going to ultimately lose to me anyways?
Am I? What was our record? What was our head-to-head last
year? Was an off year. Last year was an off year.
What for you?
I was the Ravens last year. I was banged up.
Oh, okay. I took over an orphan team and we battled. Got Cordero Patterson off the street. That was a fun signing. That always hurts. I'd much rather lose in this league though than like my home league where it's a bunch of guys that are like, bankers and like real estate agents and superintendents at schools and who are just like, they watch every sport. And meanwhile, this is my job. And I came in 9th last year. Or actually, I might have came in dead last year. Also, I had Calvin Ridley and AJ Brown as my keepers. So that did not go well. I long story short, we'll battle. We'll see how this season comes through. And we'll see how those head-to-head matchups come up. Lenny.